Yes. That's right.
Are there assigned seats?
You can sit on both sides.
Yep, sit wherever
Anywhere you'd like to go.
You can sit next to the mayor.
You look lonely. I'm gonna sit up here.
That works for me. Thank you.
All right. Good.
Doing good. Oh, it's been a long time.
Keep seeing your name on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to see that every once in a
Yeah.
while.
A little out there.
Nicole started with planning commission, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's where I was for a long time.
Boy, this time flies.
I know. How long have you been on planning commission, Harold?
Well, somebody told me 27 years at our last meeting.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you started like 1980s, right? I remember I looked it up once and I just can't remember that date.
So did you first get on the city council?
City council was 12 was my first year. Planning commission was from 97 to 07. You were there before 97, so.
I was born
Brett
in
was.
79. Just
Awesome. Is Nicole coming? Nicole's back there.
Wayne's on, he's on. Zoom.
Wayne's on
Yep.
Zoom.
She
There we
just popped
go.
up.
Everybody's popping up.
Jake hasn't logged in on I4 Tom. How are you?
Okay.
Good to see you.
So we're gonna begin our planning commission, Got planning commissioners here, we're a different thing now. Study session. It is 4:30 and we're in the multipurpose room of West Valley City Hall. And we have guests. So we have part of our city council, council member Hoon and Fitzsimonu is not here. Everybody else is present. And then planning commission. 7 of the, do you have 9?
We have 7 with 1 alternate, so 8 total.
Oh, 8 total, okay. So 7. So what I was thinking is, when we get to our part of the agenda with you guys, I'm gonna have you just introduce yourselves. So we'll get through this first part. We have our minutes from our last meeting on March 8th. Do we have any discussion or a motion on the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, thank you. The motions pass. Do we have any, Mr. Pyle, do we have any adjustments to our regular meeting tonight?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We have added one item for both consideration and approval tonight in the regular meeting on the consent agenda. That is the last item, Resolution 22-54. And the purpose of this, or the reason you have it before you tonight, there's nothing particularly remarkable about it. It's another quit claim deed, temporary construction easement in the amount of just under $1,200. But the reason it's on for tonight is for your consideration. And of course, since we did bring it to you sort of last minute here, if the council would like to delay it for whatever reason, that's fine. But the reason we brought it to you is under UDOT's rules, they can't proceed with bidding the project that this is associated with, the 4700 South construction project, until every single right-of-way acquisition and those things have been done. And this is the absolute last one, at least that we know of. Sometimes that we get surprised by something coming up in the middle of the project or whatever. But in the plan and to proceed, this is the last one. And we figured if we brought it to you and got it approved tonight, that would speed up getting the project out to bid by at least a week. So that's why it's before you.
So is this the connection they have in front of the Maverick? It's on the corner of that gas station on the northwest corner?
Let me see. I'm not looking at the map right now. 4708 is the address, as you see. Let me take a look at the.
Okay, I think that's what it is.
You're probably right, I'm sure. I just didn't want to say it unless I was looking at it. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So I'll turn it over to the council. Any comments or questions on this one? All good with it for tonight? Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll now go to our communication item, and this is our discussion with Planning Commission. So want to start in the corner, Matt, and introduce yourselves?
I'd like to know.
Name, no. Name and how long you've been on Planning Commission? Name.
My name is Matt Lovato. I've been on the Planning Commission since 2015.
Brett Fuller, Planning Commission, forever.
Since,
Oh, 20, you're what, 27? 27, I'm 23. He's got me by about 4 years.
you were on, when I was on 97.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, so you've been there long.
Yeah, I'm there before you were.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's getting there.
All right, Clover Meters, since 2013.
David McEwen since, I believe, 2015 as well.
Cindy Wood, 2017.
Martell Winters, I'm not sure when. Not as long as the older guys, but longer than some of the newer people, so I don't know.
And Harold Woodruff forever, apparently.
Forever plus 4 years, right?
Yeah, plus 40.
Okay, we're going to turn this discussion over to Mr. Pastrick. He'll join us.
All right, thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, Council and Commission. So this discussion actually is at the request of the council. As part of the strategic plan, the council asked to have a joint conversation about an update to our general plan. And before going through our survey we'll be taking this evening or afternoon, I want to just talk briefly about the why of a general plan update. So the last update was back in 2015. And as you can imagine, a lot has changed since then. So there have been a number of state code changes, including just this most recent legislative session changed some of the rules for general plans. We have new council members since then. The Mountain View corridor was completed during that time frame. We've had what I would consider massive home value appreciation. So just to give you an idea, I pulled some numbers. Back in 2015, this is MLS data, the average home in West Valley sold for just over 200,000. Then the fourth quarter of last year, that was almost 420,000. So more than doubled in the last, just since 2015. We've also had significant growth in distribution. Where so to do that, we're going to do a little online survey. So I'm going to share my screen for a minute. So you can access the survey a couple of ways. So just before the meeting, I emailed out a link. And so if you wanted to just access that email and then click on the link, that will take you to the survey, or you can scan this QR code on the screen and access the survey that way. And thanks to Eric Bunderson for helping coaching me on this new software we have. So I'll give everyone a minute to get that up, and then we're actually going to walk through it together. And at the end, we can actually review the answers together and see what the responses were.
What was the second way, Steve?
Email. So I sent out an email for to all the commission and council members. There's just a link in the email that you can click on.
Works pretty well. Take a picture.
If all else fails, I do have paper copies of the survey too, so we can do it that way too. All right, does everyone have that up now? Okay, we'll switch to the survey. So we'll just walk through these and then give everyone a minute to score or to enter your response, and then we'll see all the responses at the end. And so again, this will be just for staff's benefit. This will just be for the commission and council members. Others can view in, but I ask that you not respond so we can get just the council and commission's responses. So the first is, so our general plan right now includes the following guiding principle. So to what degree do you agree or disagree with this statement? So the first one is, instead of zoning more ground for retail, the city should encourage new retail development on existing vacant ground, zone commercial, and on aging and or underdeveloped retail areas. So in this one, you're just stating how much you either agree or disagree with that statement. Pretty straightforward. So I'll just keep moving along unless I hear dissenting or if you need more time. So the next one is there's a goal that's in the general plan. And again, a similar question, how much do you agree or disagree with this goal? So the goal is maintain at least one job for each person in the labor force within the city. And just to help out, so labor force should be anyone that's of working age. So we have the goal of continuing to grow employment sort of commensurate with population growth in the city was the goal. Okay, so another goal was promote a more urban environment along Redwood Road, 35th South, east of Mountain View Corridor and near light rail stops. So more urban being taller, closer to the street, more intensity, that sort of type, or that type of development. Okay, so the next one, some of these begin with more information before asking the question. So this next one is, across the country, growth in e-commerce has led to non-traditional uses like distribution centers of vacant or struggling retail buildings. And you may remember a recent example of the old Shopco building that was converted to a Fetzer's warehouse as an example. So the question, what best describes your position on non-traditional uses of retail buildings? So there's three options. The first is we shouldn't allow that. We shouldn't do that. The next is that really on a limited basis, we could rezone properties to allow that. Or the third would be we actually change the code to allow that. Okay, so next question, based on commercial development built recently in the city, do you believe city standards first require too much, are about right, or don't require enough? So again, just thinking about commercial development. Okay, so the next question, which of the following economic development initiatives do you believe is the most important? The first being encouraging new businesses to locate in the city. Second, encouraging retention of existing businesses. And third, promoting the redevelopment of aging areas. All right, so here's another one that begins with some background information. So we have approximately 840 acres of vacant land in the city that's planned for residential use. That's roughly 4% of the city, okay? And then of that 840, about 300 of that is already or has some type of entitlement, like a zone change with the development agreement, for example. So as more land is developed and as housing prices increase, it's likely that we'll see pressure to redevelop blighted, low value and or underutilized commercial areas with residential development. One example of that would be on 35th South, we had an old used car lot that was converted to townhomes, for example. So question, what best describes your position on allowing such areas to be redeveloped into residential? The first being that the city should retain commercial areas as commercial, so don't rezone those. The next one is to allow that in limited situations. And then the third being more liberal, allowing most of those types of areas to go to residential. All right, another question with some information ahead of it. So as long as we've been tracking permits in the state, there's been 4 times where the number of multifamily permits in the state has exceeded the number of single family permits. And 3 of those 4 times have been in the last 6 years. So meaning that seems to be a trend. We're seeing more multifamily across the state more recently. The city has already approved zoning for about 200 senior condos, 600 townhomes, and about 850 apartment units that have yet to be built. Okay, so these are ones that have received some level of entitlement, but not a building permit yet. Okay. Despite this, the city continues to see interest in townhomes and apartments. So what to best describe your position on rezones for more senior condos? So the next several questions are all similar, just asking about different housing types. So this first one is saying rezone, or what's your position on rezones for senior condos? So the first is we have enough, shouldn't do any more. The next option is we would consider a few more in the right places. The third would be we would support several more along major corridors. And then the fourth is would support many more. Okay, so those are the 4 options there. Then the 9th question is very similar. So it's asking about townhomes now, saying, okay, what's your position on rezoning for townhomes? So again, the first being we shouldn't rezone any more for ground for townhomes. We have enough. Second being a few more in the right locations. Third, several more along major streets, and then many more is the last option. And then 10 is very similar. Let me know if I need to slow down here. So when it comes to rezones for apartments, so same options. Have enough, shouldn't do any more is the number 1, a few more, the third, several more, and then finally the last one is many more. All right, number 11. So it's a follow-up question to the last one. So when considering a zone change for apartments, what should be the most important deciding factor? The first is there isn't one. We shouldn't do any more rezones for apartments. Second, proximity to light rail. Third, proximity to retail and other services. Or number 4, removal of blighted development. Okay, another question beginning with some information here. So with land and home prices increasing, we see more interest in developing areas that have been or have long been zoned agricultural into more traditional single-family development. So think of places like Chesterfield or along Parkway Boulevard in the west side of the city. What best describes your position on rezoning such areas for more traditional single-family developments, meaning not half-acre lots, but lots that would be smaller than half an acre? So the first is we shouldn't rezone those areas. We should keep those areas the agricultural zoning. Number 2 is there would be a few exceptions, but for the most part, we would keep those areas agricultural. The third is we would retain areas that are actually developed that way as half-acre lots, but then other areas could be rezoned. And then number four is we could essentially rezone any of those areas, whether they're developed that way or not. All right, so another one of those guiding principles that's in the general plan right now says the city should encourage transit-oriented development in strategic locations. And then the question, to what degree do you agree or disagree with this statement? And just as a reminder, so transit-oriented development, or TOD, would be development that's close to transit, that's walkable, tends to be mixed use, and tends to be higher intensity than other development. All right, so 14. We're past halfway. How strongly do you agree or disagree with the following statement from the current general plan? Other than along major streets like Redwood Road, 5600 West and 35th South, existing single-family neighborhoods should remain intact. So in other words, on Redwood Road, if you have a single-family home, that could transition to something else, but if it's off a major street, it should stay single-family. All right, 15. So how strongly, again, do you agree or disagree with this statement? All high-density residential development should be within walking distance of transit. So you can see there's a trend, a lot of questions about housing here because we get a lot of questions about housing, and both the commission and council consider a lot of these types of things in real life. So Salt Lake County is projected to grow by about 380,000 people over the next 30 years. Which statement best reflects your position on population growth in the city? So keep in mind, again, that less than 4% left, okay? The city should accommodate population growth within the city by allowing a variety of housing types, or the city should steer population growth outside of the city by keeping residential densities low. All right, so the next several questions deal with with specific areas of the city, okay? So the first one, 17. So of the areas that are listed, which do you believe warrants the most attention or the most focus from the city? So you have Redwood Road, 35th South, 4100 South, 5600 West, and Mountain View Corridor area, light rail stations, or the northwest part of the city, which is where we have a lot of industrial development happening. So think west, so think of north of Parkway and west of Mountain View Corridor, that area of the city. All right. 18, besides Fairborn Station, which of the following light rail station areas do you believe warrants the most attention from the city? So you have the three choices: Decker Lake, which is there at 31st South and Decker Lake Drive; Redwood Junction, just west of Redwood at 2770 South; or the River Trail Station, which is in Metro Business Park on 1070 West. So the next several questions, we're getting towards the tail end here, have to do with what actions, if any, the city might take in these different areas. So before I go through these questions, I want to give some examples of the responses or the possible options. So if you think about what we did here in Fairborn Station, we essentially did all of the actions listed here. So we adopted a new general plan for the area of Fairborn Station. We actually created a new zone for that area. We adopted a redevelopment area over at Fairborn Station. And then the city also invested funds through infrastructure and parks in the area as well. So we did all of those actions. Now, obviously, we can't do that everywhere, right? We don't have those resources. And so that level of resources. So it's asking, what level of involvement should the city be involved in each of these areas? So first, starting along Redwood Road. So if you think land use changes are needed along Redwood Road generally, what level of involvement do you think is appropriate to encourage that change? So the first is, we don't need to change anything, it's fine. The next would be, we should indicate in the general plan what we want, but nothing further. The third would be to proactively change the zoning or create some new zoning for the area. The fourth would be a new redevelopment area, or finally, actually investing in the area. And obviously, as you go down the list, it's more involvement as you go down the list. All right, so the next question, 20, same question, just a different area. So now it's asking along 35th South. So all the responses or possible options are the same, just asking for a different area. Then question 21, same question, just different areas. So this time it's along 4100 South. So just three more of these. So 22 is same question along 5600 West. '23 would be around light rail stations. So again, thinking about the three, not including Fairborn, since obviously we've already had significant involvement here at Fairborn Station. And finally, for the area questions, the last one would be the northwest portion of the city. So again, thinking about that area that's largely developing as industrial west of 5600 West and north of Parkway Boulevard. And last question that we get to say survey says at the end. Which statement best describes your view of how to address future transportation needs? So the first is, the city should focus on widening major streets as outlined in the major street plan. The city should focus on improving the existing road network through intersection improvements, access management, and signal coordination. And then finally, the city should focus on alternative forms of transportation like walking, biking, and transit. Once you fill that out, you can hit submit and we'll start seeing the responses. Yes. So we have 12 so far. 13, I think that's. Okay. So I think we have, if you like, I think we have time to go through, just kind of see how the responses turned out. So in the first one about the statement about rezoning more ground for retail, it looks like most or all either somewhat agreed or strongly agreed with that. So that's it's good information. By the way, we can publish these results as well, so we can send these out to both groups. The next one is about maintaining at least one job for each person in the labor force. So it looks like we had at least a couple that somewhat disagreed with that, but most agreed with that statement. The one about a more urban environment along major streets, we had some 4 that either agreed or disagreed or strongly disagreed there, and then but a majority that agreed with that statement. So when it comes to allowing things like a warehouse or distribution use in a retail building, in that case, it looks like the majority said it was more kind of on a limited basis based on a zone change where we would consider that. Interesting on number 5 was when it comes to commercial development, it looks like the majority felt that that we're about where we need to be. We're doing a good job there. When it comes to economic development initiatives, interesting here, promoting the redevelopment of aging areas was the highest or got the most votes on that one. When it comes to redeveloping aging commercial areas into residential, it looks like the majority was more on a limited basis that would be allowed. So when it comes to senior condos, the majority was a few more. On the question of townhomes, again, the majority was a few more. On apartments, interesting, it's kind of, you've got equal split between we have enough and a few more on that one. So that one's interesting response. So, oh, excuse me, that one was for the, that was the, oh, yes, apartments. And then number 11, excuse me, is the what would be the most important deciding factor. And that one's kind of split. It's hard to have a clear winner on that one. So it looks like more said that we shouldn't do anymore. So this one was about rezoning areas like Chesterfields to more traditional single family. Looks like the majority was saying we could rezone those to something else, but again, pretty mixed on that question. All right, about supporting or promoting transit or transit-oriented development, looks like the majority either somewhat agreed or strongly agreed. When it comes to keeping single-family areas intact except along major streets, again, everyone agreed with that statement to some degree. As far as keeping density near transit, you've got the majority agreeing there. On the question of accommodating population growth, looks like the majority supported having a variety of housing types to accommodate population growth. Interesting here on which area we should focus most on. Redwood Road seems to be the winner here. That would have been my vote. Just saying. Fairborn Station, or which light rail area would need the most attention outside of Fairborn Station. It's a split between Decker Lake and Redwood Junction, and just a few on the metro area. So these are interesting as far as level of involvement. So 19, no real clear winner on that one. Looks like maybe some more towards redevelopment area along Redwood Road. On 35th South, it's more zoning, much less the others. So that one seemed to be a clear winner on 35th. On 41, also zoning. 56, zoning. Light rail, also zoning. And then the Northwest was split between general plan and zoning. And finally, as far as future transportation, was focusing on, and the answers are cut off here, but I have, so that would be focusing on improving the existing road network through things like intersection improvements, access management, and the like. So again, we'll share those responses with both groups, and we'll, of course, save this information. Just to wrap up, from the staff perspective, are there other topics from the Commissioner Council you feel warrant some special consideration? We've certainly talked a lot about residential and density and commercial, that sort of thing, but are there other topics that you feel we should be considering as part of this update?
Any input?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor. I kept thinking about the one we We talked several times in the past about 2017 20,000 square feet. Used to be before that, before 2017, it used to be shopping center, basically like strip mall of 4 or 5 units for each, strip mall. But after July 2017, and we turned that one into 1 acre lot, not a 20,000 square feet, but 1 acre lot allowed to have to build a shopping center. And I think it's to be honest with you, I think it's a bad decision. And may I see brought up before, and now I'll bring it up again. The reason is because our city is very diversity. You see, the minorities population is right now majority. Multiple ethnic groups here in our city, and the demand very high. If you go to the Redwood Road on put that one on for me, please, Ken. See right there. This is a picture. I'll show you. Okay. You go. The one have the Westwood truck, the truck right there. Our city's truck right there. Yes, I want to see that truck, a nice truck. Yep, right there. That piece of property is 0.87 acre, and the next adjacent to that one before 2017, they built a strip mall and have 5 units there, and very multi-ethnic groups in that strip mall. We have is from South America, we have from Bosnia, we have from Central America. We have multiple tenants in that strip mall. And you see that truck we have right there? That's a vacant land, the same lot. And then next picture, Ken. See who picking up the stuff right there? Our city staff. See right there? A picture. We're not supposed to do that. It's not our job. Why? Because we didn't allow them to build the strip mall, the shopping center, and that reason why we send people over there to pick up our garbage, our trash, whatever. I mean, it's their trash, whatever. And that's not right. We have multiple things to do in our city. And we should have that kind of shopping center so people, they can have a small unit, they can demand so high. And why we stopped doing that? So one of the council member in the past, I asked him, why are you doing that? And he said, well, because I don't like the L-shaped top. Okay, that's fine with me. The L-shape is fine with me. You can go with the one long strip mall parallel with the strip. I mean, with the street or the road. You can do that. It look nice. You don't want an L-shape. That's fine with me. Just go one long with the road. But the thing is right there, it makes no sense at all. If you think about it, send someone from our city employees right there, go there and pick up the trash from the landowner. Why? Why? The landowner don't want to do it. They got stuck. They're supposed to use that now to build a strip mall, but now the city don't allow them to do that. We don't allow them to do that. And go ahead and go pick up your trash. It's not mine. I pay taxes, I paid everything, and you don't allow me to do that. It makes no sense at all, and I'm very upset about it. To be honest with you, that's not fair. And we have multiple places like that on Redwood Road. That one and adjacent to that one too is north of that one, and also a couple, one more block in the north, the same thing. And right here, you and I, we all the council members, and we here the planning commission members here, we are planning Redwood Road, the same thing, parallel with 5600 West. Okay, we try to have high avenue, more taxes, sale tax and everything, property tax. We said that. We planned to do that. Why we stopped? Just tell me, explain to me why. It make no sense at all.
So what year did we do it? 17?
17,
17. Okay. For some reason I had 7 in my mind, and
we didn't know.
but it was sooner than that. Does anybody else have thoughts of changing it back?
A different subject, maybe, if that's okay.
Sure.
And it, everybody knows about the affordable housing issues, and it really, at the planning conference last fall, there's a couple of sessions, and the statement was made that less than 45% of households can afford to purchase a house now. And I guess kind of in general, are we just happy with our policies? I mean, I'm thinking, maybe with these apartments we're approving, maybe we should require maybe 5% be reserved for people under 50% of the AMI, or some number. I mean, I'm just throwing those out. Whatever we do would be a drop in the bucket, but at least it would help the situation in some fashion. So I don't know the answers, but maybe we should just give that some thought.
Yeah.
I do want to go back to the 20,000 square feet and also 1 acre lot. So I want to hear from you guys, both council members and the planning commission members. I want to hear from you. What your thought about that?
Hey, Tom. So, I know that you've raised this issue before, and I understand the sense of urgency that you feel behind it. I'm not as up in the know as you are in terms of real estate and commercial space and all that. So I would appreciate any further information that I could get, just to anything that you could present to me to show maybe loss of revenue or lost opportunities that we've missed out on since the implementation of this policy in 2017. That would really help me just to kind of see what the gravity or urgency of the situation is. Did that make sense?
Thank you, Jake. Here, I just want to bring it up. I think I appreciate your question. Just a picture right there, the south side picture. Can you put it back for me, please? Ken? You see the strip mall right there? We just built before 2017, and you see we are collecting the property tax. See right there, okay, and we're collecting the sales tax and make the area real nice. Is that I think that multiple things I can say, but I think 3 main things I can bring it up to you about that, Jake. See, and then the one that vacant land right now, what do you think about the tax? Very much just almost zero, nothing there. And we bring any employees in there or any store in there? No. About the demand service there for multi-ethnic groups in the area? No. Many things I can say about that, but the thing is that you can see the opposite between the two pieces of property right there. One is to have as a strip mall, and one has a vacant land. You see that's how much we're gonna lose for the property tax, sales tax, employees, and everything this year. Does that make sense to us? No, I don't think so.
So Councilmember Yoon, just so I understand, do you know what the reasoning behind that restriction? And also some of those lots, I don't know, can they accommodate that size of a shopping center with the parking? Is that one of the reasons why?
So Steve, can you answer that question?
Yes, in fact.
On a 20,000 square foot lot?
Right. So we actually had a conversation with the council about this very issue a few months ago. And just by way of background, the discussion then was that the majority of the council at least wasn't interested in taking up the issue. But the ordinance does limit, and I'm going off memory here, I believe it's under a property that's less than an acre is not eligible to have a shopping center or a strip mall on it. And the concern at the time was that when you look up and down, say 35th South or Redwood Road, we have a lot of these smaller strip malls. And so trying to encourage other development along with just having a larger site where you have more room for parking, that sort of thing. Certainly, if it's the council's desire to change the ordinance, certainly we could do that. It just, in the past, as this conversation has been had, the majority hasn't given the direction to make the change.
Do we have any records to show if people have applied for projects on those properties and it hasn't even gotten past the, let's talk about it because our ordinance said 20,000 instead of 40?
So we wouldn't have applications in that case because we would tell them beforehand that you know, it's not eligible. So.
But any idea of how many people have asked?
I know this particular property has inquired. Off the cuff, I can't think of other ones that have inquired about that issue, but I know this property in particular that Councilman Hughes has brought up has inquired.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was kind of the root to my question as well, as the mayor stated. I would just like to know a little bit more about the actual demand for that usage and whether or not our policy is overly prohibitive or not. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, can you tell us the address for that property? Idea of where that's at?
What's the address? It's 29.
Yeah, 29.
No, it's
29 something. It's
on the east
just
side of the street, I know.
kind of by where the tracks comes around.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess my question would be is what else could go on that land? And did we shoot ourselves in the foot by changing it? We have 2 new council members that really haven't studied it. I don't know if we need to have a presentation in city council to catch everybody up and then see what the appetite is.
I don't know if this is what we're looking at, but I'm just looking at a piece on Redwood and Claiborne. I don't know if you could pull that up, Ken. But there's looks like a parcel that's smaller and right up against tracks.
That's south side of that part. This one's south side.
And there's no real opportunity to add to that parcel because of tracks and because of Claiborne. It makes sense that that one would be something we would consider to do something with. Whereas across the street from Claiborne, there's a whole block that's vacant, at least it shows on Google Earth, that you know, that could be a nice development. But I think maybe we look at some of these smaller pieces that aren't able to join with other parcels and at least look at it. I mean, I hate to have it stay vacant for 20 years and we're still talking about this. Well, somebody's still talking about this in 20 years.
Are you saying you don't want to be here in 20 years?
Aren't there all sorts of development that could go in there besides the strip mall?
There are so the property zone C2, so there are a number of commercial uses that would be allowed, just not a strip mall.
And neighborhood uses would be a little bit smaller, but if it's C2, it could go to a neighborhood use.
Right.
Because that's a lower.
Correct. That's
Yeah.
correct.
So something that didn't need the high-end C2. So is there an appetite to bring it back to the council and at least have a discussion about it? Yes?
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Please. Here I go back with that one. We can do McDonald or Burger King and that's you know that piece of land, but you got to look at the demand. We have to study that. You know what I'm saying? You know, people they can say, other council members say, well, why don't we put the big box there for McDonald or Burger King or In-N-Out, but the demand is not there. Demand is right there, is a small strip mall and have multiple units in there and work well for a certain area. Maybe on 5600 West, it's work out for McDonald, In-N-Out, or Burger King. But Redwood Road in Chesterfield, I think that they need more multi-units.
Okay. So let's bring that back as a study item.
If I could, just a quick comment on Commissioner Woodruff's comment. So in this past legislative session, the legislature actually changed once again the moderate income housing requirements or our requirements for our moderate income housing plan. So that will be something we would update as well as looking at that. I think this is what the fourth time they've changed that. It seems like every year they're changing that, but.
Okay. And have we attached 5% to a project yet?
We have not.
Okay.
We do have a number already in the city of, for example, tax credit projects that were built by whether they're privately held or publicly held that are income restricted. So we do have a number of projects that and we can share this information with the council, but that already have those kinds of income restrictions in the city.
So the one out on 56 that was Cowboy?
Yes, that's an
That
example.
one, that one's all.
It's all
income
income
right?
restricted. Yeah. And sometimes those projects have varying income levels. So you may have so many units that are, affordable at a certain price point and others that are maybe available at a lower price point.
Okay. And you have to meet federal standards to get into those?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, I think it's a good thing to look at. Adding to our ordinance. Anybody else? Oh, you're also
I'll
talkative.
share. Well,
Okay, thank you.
so in the right situations, I've been supportive of the more dense housing, but I still in the back of my mind, I keep wanting, okay, where should there be a line drawn? Should there not be? And I don't have an answer yet, but it's something that's been in my mind a lot as we see more and more of these and as housing prices continue to increase. And I've mentioned this in our meeting before. In 20 years, am I gonna look back and say that, was that the right decision or not? And I don't know. But that's weighed on my mind a lot as we go through more and more of these requests that we see for the higher density housing. Like I said, I don't have an answer, but it's on my mind a lot.
Well, and I was very surprised of the townhome development that came before the Planning Commission a couple of weeks ago that are going to sell 450, 500,000. And so density, but we're not getting less cost. And I think that's what gives me pause is I'd rather have a senior living or something that's more individual homes than the high density where we're paying the exact same price. I think living on top of each other is kind of difficult, but that's my own personal opinion. Any other opinions? Okay. Oh, that one?
Well, to go along with that, I think about, we had the question when Will was selected, where do you see the city in 50 years? And you look at Redwood or any of our major corridors, they're going to be redeveloped in the next 50 years. What are they going to look like? And I think that's what this exercise is all about is what do we want these streets to look like in 40 years? When we drive through, are they going to be single family? Are they going to be commercial? Are they going to be attached? That's something to think about. I would love to see as many subdivisions stay intact as we can, single family subdivisions. But I can also see that there's going to be redevelopment along, especially the corridors in the major streets. So it'll be fun to see over the next 40 years.
For me, it's kind of a hard sell to say, yeah, we'd love to have single family detached homes, but along these major streets where in my mind, I would not look at that area for my house. Even though I've ended up there because I live on 56, but the house is built in the 20s, it's a family home. And there are other things that have kept us there, but it's been difficult. There are some aspects of that we don't love. So I can see the idea of having the higher density housing there where maybe they want to get closer to all the stuff going on. But the point you raised is a good one. And I don't understand the difference in pricing. I don't understand, I just lack that knowledge when and so in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, higher density housing, let's make sure it's really nice higher density housing. That makes me feel a bit better about the situation. But to the point you raised, so then you end up with, is it indeed just as high as if it were an R18, you know, single family home on R18? I don't know the answer to that question, but I would not want to see that be the same either. It should be less, right?
And I think we're striving with the housing crisis to find housing that people can afford. But we don't control the prices, the developers do. And so we're at their mercy, and it's a hard one. I have to agree with you. And whoever figures it out will probably make millions, but we need to figure it out.
I can't say.
Don, anything?
I'm just looking at the high density housing in my neighborhood that was built as affordable and is still supposedly Section 8 affordable, but I couldn't afford it.
Okay.
You know, I've looked at 2 and 3 bedrooms down there in those apartment houses that were built as affordable housing, and at that time they drew in, how do I say it? There were several that, as ecclesiastical leader, I was paying rent for, so they drew in that clientele. But better clientele now, there's not quite as many apartments, we're still paying rent. There are plenty, and so I think we've got the affordable housing, quote unquote. But the problem is everything else that goes up, you know, when they sell their apartments, they want to make money too. And so fix them up, make them look nice, sell them for a big number, and then forget about them. So I think we need something on the, we used to have the rent control on the books that the state took away from us too. We could control some of that. We can't now.
And as a city, how do we stand? We have quite a bit moderate to low income housing.
We do. In terms of when you compare us with other cities, particularly in Salt Lake County, we're still clearly a leader when it comes to provision of affordable housing. Now, obviously, as the price goes up, right, just that amount decreases, but we're still a leader when compared with other cities in the county. And a lot of that's just by the sheer fact of just the mix of housing we have. We have mobile homes, apartments, duplexes, fourplexes. We have it all, right? And so that variety in part makes us more affordable than other communities that are largely single family with very little of anything else.
Well, and I think that's good to know, because we don't just have little teeny pockets either. We have large pockets of each one of those.
Exactly.
And whereas our responsibility to have new homes for people, single family homes, or it's a hard one.
Right. And the focus in the past, and in fact, in the current general plan, has been on focusing on the higher end, because we were lacking that higher end. That's been the focus. And so that's part of the conversation. Should that continue to be the focus?
Yeah.
Mayor.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. In the past, I was supporting for density, but now kind of I'm fading away from that. But one particular area now have a planning commission here too, so I can ask maybe all of us, maybe you can help me out with this. Parkway Boulevard at the corner of Redwood Road, man. Fourplex, you know, multiple, see right there, I'm talking about. We all know about Harvey Street, you know, in the past, and now it's the right senior housing, right? I would love to see something there turn into something very nice and very functional and very good for that area. So maybe planning commission, you guys here, and then council member, you know, all you guys here too. And so what do you want to do for that piece of corner? What do you want to do?
Redwood Road
And what?
and Parkway Boulevard on, talking about nearby the
It's the southwest corner. Well, southwest that way
City Hall.
of that
Yeah,
intersection.
The old City Hall, yeah.
City Hall.
Across from there, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Latin market today.
Yeah, and that one, we don't own the properties. I mean, it'd be nice to acquire the property and have control over it, but it's definitely bringing in somebody that has the funds to turn it around.
May I ask a question about the opposite end, the RE side?
Uh-huh.
It sounds like we don't, it seemed like to me, I don't know how many applications, I asked Steve this question, but how many applications we get for RE anymore? And maybe RS is a better plan for that. It seems like we get some really nice RS. I have a watering hole myself. I don't use much of it anymore, and I'm a little worried about watering it this year. And so, I don't know, it's just something to think about, but things are changing really rapidly. So I wonder if all the RE we have set aside would be some RS. Not super build the fast, but something to think.
Yeah, I was really pleased with the success of the RE. We've had the one application for the RS, is that right?
Correct.
And has there been more interest or is it too restrictive?
We have one application actually that just worked its way through planning commission has yet to come to the city council. So that's the second one we've seen.
Okay, so it is picking up now that we have the ordinance.
Right.
Yeah. And our RE was so successful. I mean, 95% plus were West Valley residents that moved into Newton Farm. And I still think we have a big need for that, but it's whether or not the builders want to build that.
Exactly. I wonder if there's a market for the developers. I know Ken Milne is I think the developer that keeps doing it. So we need more Ken Milnes. I just don't know if there are any.
Yeah. Well, I think if we leave, well, we all know my opinion. You guys had to put up with it for 10 years. They're having to put up with it. But if we don't build it here, they will go somewhere else to get the big lots and the big houses. So if we want to keep our residents that have been here, raising their families in the area.
Also interested to see the feedback that we get. Fairborn Station is kind of like the first tip into the whole podium style, like downtown style living. Interested to see how 41 and Red goes and how that all like shakes out. Living next to Pinnacle Apartments, Pinnacle Highbury, it's fine. I think the biggest thing is just the traffic. I watch the YouTube all the time each week and hear the people complain about the cars and that's honestly like the worst part. Everything else is just fine. Love that big density there, but
yeah.
So interested to see like once the cars are contained.
Well, and that's it. Putting more cars on the roads is another. Anybody else have any comments? Questions?
Can I make one more short one?
Sure.
You mentioned the senior housing, and there's one of those just down the street from me. We love it. It's a great addition to the neighborhood. They love it. They love the community they have there. They're happy. They stay there till they die. And so I've been supportive of those. I think and as people age, they want to stay in the city, but I think it's a good thing for them. I've enjoyed those.
Yeah, I agree. I think giving our residents the opportunity to stay in the city and still have the next size house they want. It's kind of like buying a boat. You always want it another foot longer, and a house, you just needed a few more new restructured when your kids are at a different stage of their life, I guess is how to say it. So unless we want them to all move somewhere else, we need to build opportunities here for them. But again, it's the developers that run that. They have to want to build it. Okay, well, I don't think we have any more questions, so thank you for your presentation and taking the time.
Thank you.
Did you have anything else to finish up with?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I don't want to cut you off.
Thank you.
Okay. You guys want to stay for the rest or do you want to book it? Okay. I know. Now that we don't have any grades or anything.
I know.
Maybe this year. This year will be.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's really good. All there.
Better.
Congratulations. Thank you. See ya. Have a good one, guys. Thank you, thank you. Thanks for your comments. Appreciate it. Feeling like you're down in
We're gonna go to.
St. George. You're like, tap it out. It's been long enough. No longer in Never Neverland. All right, now we have our community renewable energy follow-up. Are we just talking about it, or is?
Yeah, there's no presentation. We just scheduled it at the council's request for your comments or any direction.
Community renewable energy follow-up.
It's the HB 411.
HB 411.
So whatever happened with HB 411? Did it pass? Did it not pass?
I can come.
You mind telling us?
I don't
Ms.
mind.
Cottle?
No problem. And we've got Jonathan Springmeyer. I said the torch is officially passed to him, but I'll do the 411 and I'm the past, he's the future. How about that?
Years, I just thought he was here for morals.
No, he's great.
Age not aligning with that.
Not by far. So you'll recall, we had the renewable energy group, the cities that have already opted in, the sort of leadership from that agency made a presentation to the council detailing where they are now and what would happen into the future. So quick rundown of that. Their first meetings, they brought themselves together. Their first meetings occurred in December. They had 2 meetings in December. They broke out into committees and they extended the time for the qualifying cities, which is the bucket we fit in, to make a final decision, opt in or opt out by May. We had a conversation prior to that presentation as a council that you wanted to make that decision sooner than later, opt in, opt out. The cost they quoted you to opt in for the let's get ourselves together and decide how much this is going to cost and what it's going to look like portion. So to pay the agency's lawyers and negotiators with Rocky Mountain Power, they said around 45,000 this fiscal year and 45,000 next fiscal year. So I keep 100,000 in my mind. And that's if we formally opt in. Of course, as you know, at the council's direction, we as staff have been attending those meetings since the inception of since the formal formation of the agency in December and even prior to that, but it was John Rock who attended those. So that's the status as it says today. The discussion per the council tonight was after that follow-up meeting, where would you like to be in relation to that? As I mentioned, Jonathan's here tonight. He can give you all of the presentation, which we won't, but the sustainability presentation from the strategic plan, but how are we going to reach those goals otherwise? And those kinds of questions he's here to answer. No formal presentation, as Nicole mentioned. Okay. And I can answer any 411 questions or.
So you mentioned it's the final opt-in or opt-out, but isn't it true that we can opt in for this next phase and still opt out if the prices are more than what we think it would be?
Yeah, once the Public Service Commission signs off on whatever proposal and deal Rocky Mountain Power and the agency agree to, the jurisdictions that have been in have then 90 days to opt themselves out altogether, assuming that the Public Service Commission agrees to that portion of the deal. So that's not there. They've built that into the plan at the agency level, but in order to actually do that, that would have to be negotiated into the final version, right? So even the opt-in in May, the opt-in and pay your dues, yes, you could still, the city could still make the opt-out 90 days. I don't suspect that would be any different after the Public Service Commission signs off on everything, sir. So in other words, that's not in the 411 law. That's not written into law. That's just, think of it as by rule. that's handled by agency rule right now. I don't foresee that that would change, but that's what it is.
Do you know the timeline between a decision that's made in May and when the real final decision has to be made?
There is no timeline for that specifically. I know that there's a lot of anxiousness. I know the desire is to move as quickly as possible, getting the information and data collection and then the negotiations together. I think is a laudable goal. And I know that it's the community's interest and Rocky Mountain Power's interest to move as quickly as possible, but no designated timeline. They've set forth lots of different discussions about timeline, but nothing written in stone, so to speak.
What would be the difference between opting in May and just continuing the path that we're doing right now?
That's a good question. So the only difference
Benefits to opt in.
Yeah, that's a great question. The only benefit I see to that is there is a segment of information that the agency are holding out as confidential right now and only sharing with the opted in cities. That information ultimately would come forward to a public facing discussion, but that would be at a later time. We would be on the outside of that confidential information. Those are going to be things like, how much is this really going to cost based on if we, the Royal We agency do this type, a mix of this type, what's likely, those kinds of proprietary pieces of information that Rocky Mountain Power is requesting stay confidential. We would not be a party to those discussions early on. That would be, I think, the most significant. And then of course, we have sister cities in this agency that are paying the freight, and I'm sure they would love for us to pay some freight too. So for whatever that's worth.
Was your Don, was that your question? Can we still move forward with what we're doing?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Of course.
Yeah, we could just keep moving forward and.
Oh, I apologize.
Beat them to the 0%.
Yes, ma'am. I misunderstood. I'm sorry, sir. Yes, of course. Oh, and of course, we're sprinting to that finish line with Jonathan in particular.
Springmeyer sprint, huh?
Yeah, it's a Springmeyer sprint. Yep. I'll let you, any other questions? Yes.
So, yeah, does anybody else have questions that we can ask John? And are we ready to bring it back and have a vote as a council?
I have some comments.
Okay.
I like the things that we are doing and the direction we are going. But this House Bill 411, it provides opportunities that we could not provide. And there's some organizations and residents, some businesses and residents who would like to have the choice to opt in on this net zero emissions possibility. And I, for one, think that we should postpone a decision to opt in or opt out until closer to the deadline. I know it's just 2 months away. But if we can get more, if more information becomes available during that time, and we've already made a decision that we maybe wish we wouldn't have, it might be nice to have that time to postpone and then make that decision. I think it might be worthwhile to continue to join in this next phase to make that small investment. I know it sounds like a lot, but comparatively it's small. And see what happens. And maybe this would be worth offering to our residents and businesses who really want it. It might provide an opportunity that we wouldn't have otherwise if we chose now to just opt out.
Well, and either Ms. Cottle or Mr. Pyle, if we passed a resolution next week that says we're out, done, drop the mic, and then information comes out between now and the deadline, we can always reverse that and resolution and opt in, or is that totally inappropriate?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'll make some comment to that. So as I understood it, or understand the current status of House Bill 411, and Nicole and or John can correct me if I'm wrong, but the only reason we are at or would pass a resolution or need to pass a resolution is to opt in, as you've discussed. There's no requirement to opt out, obviously, because we're not part of any organization, and the law, at least as is written, doesn't say every city that could participate or is invited to participate or whatever has to opt out. So yes, the short answer, I think, Mayor, is what you're thinking is to get to that end, you could either pass a resolution saying, no, we don't want to. And I don't think that precludes us from changing that decision before May. On the other hand, I don't think you have to pass or you don't have to say no in a resolution at all. You could just wait until May. And then if you wanted to pass a positive resolution, one question you could, one question I do have that, which I think would shed a little more light on that for Nicole and John, and my memory from the multiple presentations we've had in the past, I think bears this out. But if we don't pass any kind of resolution, we're just not in. Isn't that correct, Nicole?
That's correct, sir.
Okay.
So there's no rush. I think I was more trying to be thoughtful and courteous to know where we stood so the other cities would know that. But if we don't need to pass anything, then we can just let it go until May, and then if we want to bring it forward, we can.
Yeah, Mayor, I think the only difficulty in not taking a position at this point is just the political pressure that you all as a council bear, whether that's from the outside, individuals, the body itself, whatever. So that's really the only downside.
Okay. So for myself, I haven't had really any new enlightening information from this organization since we had the presentation like last August. So that's why I'm trying to figure out in my own mind what more they're going to tell us that might encourage us to join or not.
Mayor, if I may add a comment to that too, and I appreciate what Lars was saying, and I think that's a perfectly reasonable position to be in. We could just wait, and there's really no harm in waiting a couple of months. But to your point that you just made, yeah, nothing has substantially changed at all in terms of either the requirements of the setups or the projections of cost or what the governance setup would be. So from a staff standpoint, our recommendation is still we should not participate in this, but that's the same position it's been since last summer. Nothing's really substantively changed other than the flexibility the body has decided in terms of moving forward this date for making a decision, the deadline date. That's the only thing that's changed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you bet.
Any other comments, concerns?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I also empathize with Lars's sentiment here or approach, especially in regard to individual choice and allowing folks that opportunity to, I mean, should this happen, we're opted in, right? But folks still have the opportunity to opt out. And so I'm weighing these options, and I think it's prudent for us to take the time rather than make a decision sooner rather than later. Although, as our city manager mentioned, that does open us up to continued as well. It's ongoing, right? Conversations and pressure from a number of different angles, right? But that being said, I am also very confident in the plan that has been shown to us, and I feel like the math works out in terms of us having a municipal local resolution or a way to reach that same goal. And should we pursue that route, I would be very interested in digging into that plan and making it to where it's not just as it's been presented, just in the couple of slides and things that we've seen. Great ideas. The numbers work as I mentioned before, but would love to see more concrete deadlines and accountability for ourselves to keep ourselves on track and to really make sure that that is prioritized should that be the route that we go. I guess that those are my thoughts at this point.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Anybody else?
May I say something?
Sure.
Yeah. I appreciate it a lot. You brought it up. For some reason is I'm thinking about same thing like, when we have a multiple agencies in multiple cities and so many layers, and we run into the problem. Like you told me, we had a problem in the past because council members have new council members and here and there, and they will have different ideas and different opinions. Also, the technology is you can see the difference every year. The past maybe 20 years in the past, we didn't have a TikTok or maybe Twitter or maybe Facebook or something. But see, we have a Facebook, we have Twitter. So I mean, we don't know what tomorrow is gonna be. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they have another things that may be better than this one, and we're gonna get in the stuff. Even we still cannot make the decision. If someone else make decisions for us, and that I'm really concerned about it. We put our time, our efforts, and our money in, but we're not saying anything. We're not making any decision, and I feel so bad in that kind of position we hold. And multiple layers, it always has a problem. And then the way we're doing right now, I think I like the way we're doing right now. Go with some small ability, the RE and other things we try to do here in our city, and I think that's a great. I know how you feel about it, but I think we'll run into a lot of problems, to be honest with you. And I don't know, to be honest with you, it's not really attractive to me for right now.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Looks like we're finished up with that one, and we'll move on to our budget program mod. Turn the time over to Mr. Pyle.
Thanks, ma'am. I've sent you all kinds of information over the last week, so I'm not going to belabor or go over any of that again. Just 3 points I would make just for sort of next step. So I've given you the program mods, the overall listings and all the requests from the departments. I've also given you a list of the one-time projects that I would recommend going forward into the budget, at least for discussion. It's not like a hard list, but recommendation in terms of when looking at all the different departments priority-wise, this would be my first cut, at least in terms of saying these are the ones we ought to pursue. The one thing I have not given you yet on program mods is the ongoing increase recommendation. I'm working on that currently. So I'll be having that out to you within a day or two. Also, the second point is, you'll remember I characterized the presentation last week as sort of the first cut, get you involved, kind of get you in the sausage making a little bit of what's going on there and how we do that. We're now into the second cut, refining numbers, getting things a little more pegged down. That's actually trending pretty positively. It's decreasing the gap on a net basis. I don't have numbers for you yet on that, but I would assume that within the next few days, maybe by next budget update, I'll have some harder information on that for you as well. And then the third point is just these informational updates that I've sent you. I'll continue them. They'll be from various angles and facets and positions, and really just are intended to give you all information to consider as you're coming up with how you would like to approach the budget. And that's all I got on that, ma'am.
Hey, thank you. Did anybody have any questions for Mr. Pyle about the emails you've received? Looks like there's not. Thank you, sir.
Great.
Okay, we'll now move on to the council calendar. Are there any questions or comments on that? Okay, seeing none. Any potential future agenda items?
Oh, maybe my last comment.
Okay.
I want to ask Wayne about this one. About the money for after school. I vote yes for that. But I didn't see anything, you know, it's how long ago? It's a year ago now, right? Is
Are we talking about Margaret Peterson's
Mark
program?
Peterson? Yeah,
Okay.
it's about a year now.
Something like that. Yeah, seems like it.
So what's the agreement we have with them right now? Is it year to year or 5 years, 3 years?
I think it's 3-year if I remember. We do have Steve and Margaret or representatives scheduled to come and do an update for you. Let me see if I have that date in front of me. Oh, I don't. Nicole, Ms. Kate.
April 19th.
April 19th, Nicole says.
Oh, yep, there it is. I see it now.
Okay.
So they would be able to answer those questions, Tom, probably at a lot more detailed level than I can.
Okay. We can ask those questions then.
Yeah, okay, that's it.
Yes.
I have a question, Wayne, about the renovation of the south side of this building. We have that bid. What's the timeline? I'm worried that we might miss an opportunity and prices go up.
Yes, thanks, Lars. I was going to bring that up. I actually have 2 items, ma'am, if you'll let me spend a moment on those. So the timeline is this: we're at the end of the time frame in which the contractors that we contact would be able to stick with the price that they've given them. So if we don't make a decision now, which is also okay, because again, like I said, we got a little bit more time from an occupancy standpoint because the state's not ready to vacate still and won't be until April now, I think it is. No, it was May. On the other hand, yeah, the costs are continuing to go up and the pricing structure that we've had put before us now will expire. I was told by Jake Arslanian yesterday, I think it's as early as like this week. So if we don't make a decision, then we will have to approach it later and the prices likely will be higher. If I may continue on with that, so the options, just for reiterating, our bond for the 5 million, we could schedule it from fund balance. We could do a mix of both of those. We did go clarify the payment schedule, and we can pay half of it upon closing and half of it upon or half of it in the next fiscal year after that. So we probably even could stretch that a little bit the way they're looking right now. If they're not going to occupy till May, or they're not going to vacate till May, and I don't know if they're even going to stick to that at this point. Even if they did vacate to May, we could probably push the closure into July, and then we'd be able to really make the purchase price payment over 2020 fiscal years 2023 and 2024. If you did that, we could take the available funds right now, the 5.2 million, use those for the construction, and then push the paying for the purchase question off fund balance wise or whatever into those other 2 years. So that would be another angle from which we approach the same thing. And of course, the last option there is simply to delay the project. But like we mentioned, we'll have increased costs with that, most likely, if we do.
Okay, thank you. Are you looking at putting it on the agenda soon, or what is your
No.
goal with this?
I'm just looking for your guidance. If there is no guidance, I'll just tell Jake that the contract is expiring and I won't be bringing you anything. If there is guidance from let's move forward with the construction, then yes, I'll have Jake prepare a contract for construction and we'll bring that to you.
Okay. Does everybody feel like they have enough information to make a move forward or hold on decision?
move forward with construction, will basically just be putting them under contract, because if they haven't vacated, we can't construct
Right.
or destruct.
But if we put them under contract now, where we're doing it at the bid price that they gave us, you know, a few weeks ago, and surely if we postpone it, the price is gonna go up dramatically. So we could hold them to the price now and save maybe $1 million or $2 million.
So, do you have the slide from last week or whenever we had the presentation of what the numbers are again?
Is Eric running IT over there? I can't see.
No.
Is
Cushes.
it Kush?
Kush,
Kush,
yeah.
that slide might still be on the desktop if you want to take a look. I can't share you the screen from here because I'm zooming on the phone, but I'm looking at my laptop with the slide.
May be able to find it on our email. Did you email it to me, Wayne?
Back then, a week ago or whatever it was, yes.
I think I actually have it here, Wayne. If you want, I can share my screen.
Perfect, yeah, Nicole, that'd be fine.
Let's see if I can remember how to share my screen. Just give me 1 second. Can you see that okay?
I need to share.
Oh, I have mine up.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Here we go.
Okay, so 5.2 to build the project, or maybe we can't read that.
Yeah, that's actually not the bid price. I can't even remember what that.
10.3.
But that's what we have available is 5.2. It's really close to that.
And where is the 5.2 coming from?
The 5.2 is the bond funds that were part of a larger project back couple, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is now, years ago, that we've held in bank account until such time as we're ready to build.
Okay, so that money is set aside, and then we need the extra 5.1.
Right.
From either a different bond, or are you saying just from the general or the?
We could do it either way.
Balance.
We could do it either way.
Wayne, with your knowledge of the budget and our projections, what's your recommendation?
Not the one over by the police, the one at the end of this building.
Although I hate to add extra debt, I would rather do the fund balance, but here's the other dilemma you have with the fund balance. If any of you have had a chance to go over that list I sent you today or yesterday, the $10 million in fund balance one-time projects, which are spread across a number of different departments. And if you got a chance to look at them, there's not an undeserving project or a long-awaited project on there. Public facilities, parks, and public works. And the reason we have the ability to do that is because we not only have such a large fund balance right now, but we will be significantly increasing that in the upcoming year here. So that's why we even have that that option. But of course, funds are not unlimited. So we could scale back some of those projects to the tune of that $5 million-ish and dedicate 5 million from there to this project instead. That would be one way to do it. If you prioritize that, this project, the court project, above the other projects that are on the list, then I would say take it from fund balance. If you prioritize the projects that are on that list and or even others that are still on the unrecommended program modification list, then I would say bond. It's really just a matter of how much cash flow you want to keep and achieve versus how much debt you have appetite for and what rate you would be able to get that at.
How long would the bond be for?
Normally about 20 years.
How many?
20.
But you can make them shorter if you want to.
Yes, you can make them either shorter or longer. 20 years is about standard.
And what's the interest rate right now?
Jim might actually have a better feel for that than me. It has increased, but it's still low from a historic standpoint. Jim, did you want to comment to that?
Sure. Rates, as you know, started to creep up just a little bit, so it's not as favorable as when we put this deal together. I just had a meeting with one of our bond underwriters this last week, and they gave us kind of an indication on rates. We'd be looking probably, if we were out in the market right now, in the neighborhood of 2.5.
Okay. So much almost free.
So much.
I mean, my preference would be not to take from that list. There were a lot of safety things on that list, like the bridge at the golf course. And I would hate for something to happen. So my preference would be not to pull from that and go with the bond.
A bond at this rate and with what we would save by taking the bid now is worth it.
Okay. Thoughts?
I hate to say it, but I think Mark was right. Not that I hate to say you're right. But I think, I think we could see, I'm hearing rumblings of construction costs coming down in the next 10 months, but I don't know if that's going to be, I think we're going to see rates go up. And so it may be, we're better off bonding, moving forward and waiting for savings. And then our rates are up higher. And so I think I'm on board with you.
With bonding and bonding?
To be honest with you, I just wanna buy the building and hold it up and then just fix it up for now. And then maybe you can do something else later. Maybe you can, big remodel or something. But for right now, I think just fix it up and then just use it because inflation is so high, 7.5% inflation.
Yeah.
And lumber is up. Everything is up. Gas right now is $7 per gallon. Right now somewhere, not in Utah, but somewhere. So I think it's the price, everything is up. So I'm really concerned about it. We spent $14 million to fix the road in our city for this year. That last time Kobe he shared it with us. And now we spend like $10 million to do something here with the court. But the building is not very critical thing. We can use this. We can do something with that the next few years, what I'm saying? We can hold on for that. So I think it's another number one item on our list to do that. I don't know. I probably gonna vote no, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Tom, and I would agree with you, other than the rates. I mean, I think that's what pushed me the other side is that it really is almost free money, 2.5% interest. I mean, I don't know how we say no, but how I say no, I guess. You can say no.
I would be in favor of bonding for it. Get it going.
And officially, Lars?
Yes.
Okay.
There's
I
four.
think you've got your approval, sir.
Okay, I will get with Jake tomorrow, make sure we're still actually on track with that estimate, see how the vacation affects all that, and we'll get moving.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Was just to ask if any of you had any feel or thoughts on the fleet question I sent you an email back a few days ago. So for the purposes of that one, I don't need to bring back the actual purchase right now. I don't need a resolution or approval that way. I just need to know if that's okay with you guys. If once Ford opens up its ordering process, that we do whatever it is we got to do to commit to that fleet purchase. Now, normally, again, just to reiterate, this is something we would do post July 1. But because of the shortages and being able to produce vehicles, the fact that they're not taking orders right now, and the potential even further delay, the fleet manager, Mr. Madsen, asked me if we might possibly consider being able to jump on that as soon as it did become available. The actual dollars are really the same either way. whether we spend them or commit to them in this fiscal year or next fiscal year. It's just a question of what year they actually get accounted for in. So that's really the crux of the issue.
Basic thing is we want to get on their list so they'll order for us as well as everybody else is on their list.
Right. So we're not waiting till July 1 when we have budget approval.
And we've got everybody else ordered and we come in later and say, oh, and they say, oh, well, that's next year.
Right. Right.
No, at least 60% of what you look at right now is going to be a 23, not a 22.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They tell you, you won't even get it for a year. Give us $500 down and we'll see you in a year. Which is weird, but.
It is. I might even see a situation where this question I'm even asking you is moot because they don't even open the ordering until July. That could happen too, but I just wanted to make you aware of what was going on and have your thought on us moving forward if it did become available.
I would think we need to get on the list as soon as they
possible. Is there anybody that has opposition to that strategy? Okay, I think you're good to go on that one.
Okay, those are the items I had, ma'am. I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else with any agenda items for the future? Nope, okay. Sorry, Jake. I hope Nicole tells me when you have a hand up. All right.
Nothing for me. We're good.
Okay, thank you. Any council reports? No? No?
Oh, I have one.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't remember, what is it, Thursday night, right? Yeah.
You went to the tree.
Yeah, with the culture center, they had a event there and it turned out very good event and thank you, Mayor, and gave me the opportunity to be there and say a few words for that event and really nice, good group of people turn out. Yeah, very good evening. So I just want to report back to you guys. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for covering that.
Oh, anytime.
There are a lot of things going on in the cultural center right now, so get your calendars out and play. Anybody else? Did you have something?
I just, so I attended online the virtual police department investigations unit. That was really informative. Appreciate that. Went on a great tour with Parks and Rec, so I appreciate Nancy taking the time to do that. Attended the trees display at the Cultural Center and the tour yesterday. We went on a tour with YWCA, which was great.
It was a really good tour and a lot of good information.
I had no idea that, I knew YWC was there, but they have an entire campus of support for.
So if anybody else wants that opportunity ever, I don't know how many went on it before, they had another date you could go. But if there's any interest, they'll be willing to take anyone and explain their program. It's really a good program. Okay, anything else?
I went on a tour with Nancy too, and that was great.
Enlightening.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, it's been very good for them to catch you guys up on everything. Okay, she was flicking her hair, right? Okay, just want to make sure I don't miss anybody wanting to speak. Okay, seeing no other reports, and do we have a need for a closed session? I'm seeing a no.
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, all right, so we just have one motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And everyone in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.